When will we learn? When will we learn? It isn't enough that the city is covered in darkness, and that we always seem to have enemies at our gates. But we just never learn how to get along. We always have to make fights from within our own community, Well, enough. Welcome back to another Vanguard report. Kaz PhD here, a guardian of the last city. Today's broadcast is a little different. Thanks to recent events and recent broadcasts made by a certain cult leader, I can't hold back anymore. I usually conduct myself quite gently, trying to present a calming influence, but sometimes people need a wake-up call. This week, some people from our fair city sabotaged the Eliksni camp. Banners were torn, tributes broken, and most disgustingly, ether canisters were destroyed. The whole situation went from tense to worse. I have heard the unrest in the streets, among the community, forums and threads defending violence against the Eliksni, who many still call the Fallen, and it's, quite frankly, both not surprising and sad. As I have said before, the decision was made quickly. The Vanguard decided we needed to act against the Endless Night, and they reached out to Mithrax. He was busy protecting his people, so a deal was made. Protection for them, in exchange for his help. And yet, there are many who disagree with the decision. Worse, there are those who are sowing dissent, who are inciting chaos and distrust. Lakshmi, of the Future War Cult, is the main culprit here. Her weekly communiques have been echoing off the walls and windows of our shops, our homes. The light from her broadcasts has been piercing this endless night and stabbing into the hearts of many. There are many who hear her frustration, her call to arms, and who hear nothing but wisdom in her words. There are also many of you who see through her game, question her motives, and are just as frustrated. In that way, we all have something in common. We are all frustrated. As always, let us start from a place of what we know. House Light. House Light is a group of Eliksni who have assembled with the purpose of being close to the Traveler. They see the typical Fallen way of warfare as a sickness, a weakness, one that has constantly eroded their people. House Light, led by Mithrax, struck an alliance with the Vanguard to help us with the Vex problem, in exchange for protection. That last word is important. Protection. I know there are many of you out there who see House Light as no different than any other Fallen. Know that there is a difference. Eliksni is the name of their people. Fallen is the name we have given those who have attacked us. I know it can be tough. For as long as any of us can remember, the Fallen have been our enemies. When I was first risen, it was the first thing my ghost warned me about. Except for some rare examples, the Fallen have almost always been our enemies. Shooting, cutting, killing, and as we found out even recently, even eaten our dead. Now, citizens, you may measure time differently than Guardians. We are immortal. We don't age. So we tend to measure time by seasons or campaigns. A few years ago, during the House of Wolves, Guardians pushed back on the Fallen hard. Over the next few years, the Fallen were decimated. Since the Red War, the Fallen had been so broken that instead of having many diverse houses, they had one. During the events on Europa, we learned that the main Fallen in our system had been called to Aramis' side. House Salvation was trying to use the darkness, and their next stop was to attack our home, the Traveler. However, Guardians learned at the time that not all Eliksni were alike. There were many who wanted nothing to do with this fight. House Salvation was gathering strength to make war, and these Eliksni wanted to get away. I helped them. Many Guardians did. We saw a way to weaken Aramis' strength, and possibly make new allies later. But also, many of us saw a potential path for peace. I have said all of this before. During the last few weeks, my broadcasts have been aimed to provide you with more information, close off the ignorance, cut away the fear. But apparently anyone can just jam these frequencies with lies, or at least half-truths. House Light acknowledges the accusations made against them, and they also understand. Many of these accusations have a ring of truth. The Fallen have been our enemy for a long time. They have done terrible things to our people. Not every Eliksni in House Light is a hatchling. Some, either directly or indirectly, have probably done something to cause some of us harm. But when does it end? Is genocide the only way forward? Has it ever been? But they're fallen, some of you cry. So? The Awoken used to be human, who abandoned Earth before the collapse, but then came back. Do you cast aside our bluish-purple brothers and sisters? But they fired the first shot. Did they? Were you there? Tell me what it was like. Did each of these Fallen fire shots at our people? And also, are they completely incapable of change? We barely have enough resources for ourselves. Or my favorite, the Traveler chose us and left them. You are showing limited thinking, my friends. We live in a world rich with resources, if you know where to look, how, and if you're willing to work together to share. There are some, many, sadly, who keep their wealth to themselves, and it drives the rest of us further into destitution. The Eliksni have shown how resilient they are, and if they could bring some of that spirit to the way we do things, we should let them. And as for the Traveler, it chose us, but it also chose the Eliksni. We have to be really careful here about letting ourselves rely too much on one thing and becoming just as fallen as the Eliksni have been. And citizens, don't think your infighting is unique to you alone. I know that Guardians like to act tough, act like we're above it all, but there is just as much bickering, gatekeeping, and worse in the Guardian community. There are some, those who choose the Crucible as their home base, who insult those of us who take the fight to the enemy. And the opposite is true. Those who think the Crucible is a waste of time or a cesspool catering to the worst type of Guardian. Stasis versus the light, this weapon versus that, not helping your fellow Guardian in raids, and worse, so much worse. You want to know what the Guardians are fighting about this week? Stasis and hot swapping. This week, after long last, Lord Shaxx rolled back the strength of Stasis in the Crucible. No longer is it the dominating factor, but more on par with the light. But some people feel that's unfair. And hot swapping. Get this. Guardians have found a way to hack their ghosts, so to speak, to apply macros to enable them to fight our enemies more efficiently than they could before. Seems okay, right? Well, no, actually. Our enemies study our movements as much as we do, and melting bosses using non-approved manipulation of our ghosts, it will create problems down the line. Our enemies will over-respond, and this will isolate, trap, and even hurt Guardians. This happened back during what many Guardians call the Season of the Drifter. We opened a portal to the Nine Realm, fought the Taken in an event known as the Reckoning, but because our armor had been overtuned to return our light faster, the enemies responded in too much force, and Guardians were left battered, bruised, and bitter about the whole thing. Some can achieve this step without macros, but not all are physically able to. So, some protocols will likely be changed. I wish I could say that discussion over these issues has remained calm and academic, but, as is far too often, Guardian forums are full of hatred and accusation on both sides. See the problem? I understand the need for strength, and the need to firmly put your foot down and keep out things which are a danger to us. But we have to learn to be strong in another way, to recognize that different viewpoints, different perspectives, won't kill us. Even if we disagree, we need to consider the lives of others, and come to an understanding. It's a tough thing, because we all tend to swing too hard one way or the other, either completely intolerant, or completely tolerant, the latter of which is bad as it allows poisonous words and ideas to fester within our ranks. So, for every Guardian and citizen out there, please, hear my words. We need to stand together. We need to make allies and keep our people strong. That includes even the most decorated and followed of Guardians. all the way down to new lights, and the most everyday of citizen. And it includes the House of Light. They have shown us nothing but patience, understanding, wisdom, and they have been very helpful in understanding and working to disrupt the endless night. Old bitternesses are hard to get rid of, and it is prudent to be cautious. But as I've said, we need all the help we can get. Keep your distance if you want, voice your concern, but learn your history, learn the context, examine another perspective, and save your breath for the real enemies. Those who show you absolutely no quarter and nothing but contempt. Well, that wraps up this broadcast. What do you think? Be sure to leave your thoughts below on this situation and what we should do. If you wish to catch me between broadcasts, I always leave my details in the description below. As always, I ask that you be safe, be kind, and I'll see you all next time. Bye now.